Good morning. I'm your host, Barry Schumer, for this Political Geeks podcast. I'm coming to you from San Antonio, Florida on July 3rd, 2026, one day before our big 250th anniversary, the signing of the Declaration of Independence. So it's quite a time around here in the United States with the World Cup soccer, the big celebration tomorrow for 4th of July. And there's so much to talk about with politics, there always is. So I appreciate you political geeks joining me for the Political Geeks podcast. This is my first episode, so I hope you join me in the future. Please subscribe to the channel. Hit like if you like what we're talking about today, and please share it with your friends. So today I want to just tell you a little bit about myself. I basically hate both parties in Washington, D.C. I actually think I hate the Republicans more because they just don't stick together. At least the Democrats, who are slime balls, at least they stick together. Um, I consider myself a conservative independent, but socially liberal. I happen to be a clinical social worker and psychotherapist, so I've always had that side to me. Big supporter of President Trump. I voted for him 3 times. He won 3 times. I'll never believe that he lost the election to Joe Biden. Nobody's going to ever convince me that Joe Biden got 81 million votes when Barack Obama's highest total was 69 million. And the scandal with 100 million mail-in ballots, which completely opened to fraud, will never go away. I do not like Leader John Thune in the Senate. I really despise him. I like Mike Johnson, our Speaker. Thune, it just came out the other day that for his entire adult life was a Democrat. And this is a big problem in the Republican Party. You have a lot of people that are really Democrats that just decided for political expediency and a better chance to be elected to call themselves Republicans. So the term rhino, Republican in name only, definitely goes with Thune. Thune just does not seem to want to do a lot of stuff to help Trump. I mean, especially with the some of his positions, administrative positions, still not filled. Um, what he's done with the SAVE Act is pretty terrible. The SAVE Act, Safeguard American Voting Eligibility. Not sure why he will not do the reconciliation. Not sure why he won't consider. He says he doesn't have the votes to get rid of the filibuster, but that's a rather important piece of legislation, and Trump has just not been able to get it through. And I believe Thune is fighting him on it. Doesn't really want to get it through. Thune is very good friends with McConnell. I know who's in the hospital. He's had some medical problems, but McConnell has grown to hate Trump, and I believe Thune hates him also. What happened this week with the Supreme Court in SCOTUS with the 5-4 decision, uh, getting rid of Trump's executive order to end birthright citizenship, might be the most important decision that's come down for 50 years from the Supreme Court. This birthright citizenship is just unbelievable. We know the 14th Amendment was really trying to protect the children of slaves, and now they've used it to just sort of infiltrate the United States with people from all over the world. And we don't mind legal citizens obviously coming here. We do mind the illegal citizens. I mean, in a Peter Schweitzer book, I forget the name recently, he said that Chinese people come to the United States, mostly Los Angeles, and the woman will come here for a month, give birth to the child, go back and raise the child in China for 18 years, and that child is a citizen of the United States. And he says in the book that in the next 5 or 10 years, we're going to have 1 million Chinese people eligible to vote in our elections. Well, that wouldn't sway the election too much, would it? Since most elections are determined by less than 100,000 votes. And we're going to be having 1 million communists vote in our election. I don't understand how the Supreme Court could have done that. You've got Roberts and Barrett that went on the side of the three liberal justices. And clearly, Trump made a huge mistake putting Coney Barrett on the Supreme Court. I mean, he got advice from people. She was obviously a well respected judge, but you can see that Barrett actually has a personal thing against Trump. She hates his guts. There's a picture out when he was giving a speech, I think a State of the Union, and there was a look that Barrett gave Trump that was just unbelievable how much hatred you could see on her face. And that affects people and their legal decisions. The other mistake was clearly Roberts, and George W. Bush made that mistake. I mean, he goes both ways, back and forth, liberal and conservative, but he is not a dependable conservative justice, and he's the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. So Barrett and Roberts are big problems, and Gorsuch is a solid conservative voice. Kavanaugh is mostly solid. And then we've got Alito and Thomas, obviously. They're both in their upper 70s. And you just don't know if they're going to decide to retire before the Trump ends his second term so he can replace them with other conservative people. There was a woman judge down in Florida that would have been a much, much better choice than Barrett. And, you know, Trump just didn't know better, I guess. He took the advice of people, and it was bad advice. Anyway, let's move to the Democratic Socialists of America, the DSA. Big news this past week with the three communists winning their Democratic primary in New York, and now just a few days ago, another communist in Colorado winning, displacing some establishment progressive Democrats. And this movement is definitely taking hold, led by Mamdani, the New York mayor. AOC, you could include her in that, Tlaib, Omar from Minnesota. And they are gaining traction in the United States. And again, it's just a nice name to call them Democratic Socialists. They're absolutely communists. You know, let's look at Chevalier in New York, who won the woman. And her policy positions are the following. She wants to destroy Western civilization. She wants the government to take over all production of goods in the United States. She wants to open borders. She wants all illegal immigrants to be given citizenship immediately. And she wants to get rid of all police. I don't know how much more you need to hear her to know that she's a 100% communist. Okay? So I don't believe ultimately they're going to be successful. AOC, who may be running for president in 28, has no chance. She'll get destroyed in the Democratic primary. She's just not a real smart person. Very attractive woman, but not very smart. And the other big news for our first show here tonight is something that Trump is doing very interesting. He's going to have a convention for the midterms, a Republican convention, September 9th and 10th in Dallas. I think it's a great idea. He's going to try to really muster up some courage, some energy and courage in the Republican Party, really drum into Republican voters that they better get out and vote in November, because this is a rather important midterm. If Hakeem Jeffries becomes the Speaker of the House, Trump will immediately be impeached for a third time. I mean, he doesn't mind records. He's going to have the record. Nobody's ever been impeached more than once. Likely he would not be found guilty in the Senate, but you never know. And obviously become a lame duck president for the last 2 years of his presidency. I mean, he'd obviously still have control over the military and foreign affairs, but domestic policy would not move forward except for his executive orders. So that's the situation as we come up to our 250th birthday tomorrow. The Declaration of Independence that was created by Thomas Jefferson, amazing man, Thomas Jefferson. He wrote the Declaration of Independence when he was 28 years old. You know, I often say that young people get a really bad shake here in the United States today. I think the young people today in this country are incredibly smart. There was just a stat that said that 67% of all Americans felt they achieved the American dream or are on their way to achieving it. And 55% of 18 to 29-year-olds said that they've achieved it or are on their way to achieving the American dream. So that's not bad. That's pretty good, actually. Better than the doom and gloom that everything's horrible in the United States and everybody's miserable. And I just don't see it. Clearly, some people are struggling. Many people are struggling. Financial things are obviously way too expensive. And I'm not sure how you deal with that problem. It's not an easy problem to deal with after COVID. But young people are very smart today, and a lot of them are doing quite well. So that's where we're at as we come up to the big birthday of our country. I'll leave you with this. When I took a trip to Washington, D.C. with my daughter many years ago, she was a teenager, we went for 3 days. I was so enamored with the Jefferson Memorial. We sat there for a long time, and I looked around the top of the memorial, and there's a phrase from Thomas Jefferson that I put to memory because I thought it was just really meaningful. And I'll tell you what he says on that memorial. It says, Jefferson said, I have sworn upon the altar of God eternal hostility against every form of tyranny over the mind of man. An amazing statement. This man was brilliant, and we owe him a great debt of gratitude tomorrow on July 4th, 2026, the 250th birthday. Thomas Jefferson was one of the very key people that got our country going. I want to mention just two more things before we stop today, is that besides Trump having the midterm convention September 9th and 10th in Dallas, which I think is very smart, I predict that right around the same time, September, maybe beginning of October, he's going to send every American citizen a $2,000 to $3,000 check from the money saved by Doge and the extra money that came in from tariffs. Because Trump knows how to buy votes too. The Democrats are extremely good at buying votes, so I guess we have to play the same game. So we'll see what happens. Americans would be thrilled, obviously, just get a $2,000 or $3,000 check like that. The last thing I want to tell you about is my book you see right here over my shoulder. I wrote this book, and it came out early this year. Box Seats to the End, Will the People Save the Republic? I'm very proud of the book. It's, I think, the best of my 8 books that I've written. And it basically talks about Donald Trump and what he's gone through the last 11 years, just after he came down that escalator in New York in 2015 and announced he was running for president in his first term. It's a real-time description of what happened with the 2020 election. So I wrote about every day for 3 months while that was going on from November to January. I think you'd find that interesting. And there's just a lot of great stories about Trump and what's happened the last 11 years. And there's tremendous stories about the absolute lunacy of the far left progressive communists in this country and wokeness and just all the things that are going on. It's been building for many years, way beyond the 11 years Trump's been in. This has been going on for 30, 40 years at least. So take a look at my book, Box Seats to the End, Will the People Save the Republic? It's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Until next time, political geeks, hang in there.